Have you ever stopped to think about how we tell the story of a family? It's not always some big dramatic saga. Sometimes the most amazing portrait is painted with the simplest questions and answers. So in this explainer, we're going to use a really basic conversation as a blueprint to see how we build this rich, vibrant picture of a family. It's not just about who they are, but how we use our words to create connection and identity. All right, let's get into it. So here's our game plan. First, we'll craft the basic portrait, just laying down the simple facts. Then we're going to meet the cast of characters, add a little personality, a little color. After that, we'll check out the rhythm of their daily life, uncover the bonds and traditions that are really the heart of it all, and finally, we'll look ahead to their hopes for the future.
Okay, first up, Section 1, Crafting the Family Portrait. Look, every great story, and every great painting for that matter, starts with a solid foundation, a sketch. These are the basic, simple facts that give our picture its shape and our story its starting point.
So where do you even begin, right? How do you describe a family? Well, what this source material shows us is that it doesn't start with all the big feelings. It starts with facts, just the simple architecture of who, what, and where that everything else is going to be built on.
And here it is, the very first brushstroke on the canvas. This simple little exchange. It immediately sets the scale of our portrait. Right away, we know we're not looking at some huge, sprawling dynasty or just one person. Nope, we're zeroing in on a group of 4. That's the first decision the storyteller makes, defining the size of their world.
And now we add another layer. It's not just 4 random people. It's a specific unit all living under one roof, parents and 2 siblings. This defines that immediate core group. These are the main characters in the story we're about to hear. And check this out, this is so smart. A simple question about birth order, and bam, we instantly get a point of view. The person telling us this whole story is the oldest sibling. And that single fact, it establishes a perspective, a subtle hierarchy. It's the lens through which we're going to see everything else unfold. All right, let's move on to Section 2, Meet the Cast of Characters. So we've got our outline. We know how many people there are and who's telling the story. But now it's time to stop seeing them as just figures and start seeing them as real people with their own lives and personalities. Time to add some color. What's so cool about this is how quickly these roles build a world outside the home. The father is a teacher, the mother's a nurse, the siblings are students. See, these aren't just jobs, they kind of hint at the family's values, right? Things like education, caring for others. And it gives each character a life and a purpose beyond just being dad or sister. But of course, people are way more than their jobs. So the storyteller quickly assigns these defining traits almost like they're characters in a play. Dad, the teacher, is also the strictest. The younger brother, he's the funniest. These little labels, they give our characters emotional texture and make this whole portrait so much more vivid and relatable. Okay, on to Section 3, the rhythm of daily life. Now, if the family members are the main subjects of our portrait, then their daily routines, well, that's the background. It's the setting that shows us how they all exist together in the same space, day after day. This whole flow, it isn't just a schedule, it's a rhythm. Mom kicks off the day, the whole family comes back together for dinner at a set time, they share some downtime, and then dad calls it a night. This pattern, it tells a story of predictability, of stability, and these really crucial moments of intentional togetherness. And I love this chart because it's such a great picture of shared responsibility. See, housework here isn't just one person's burden. It's a total team effort. The parents share the big stuff, sure, but everyone, right down to the brother taking out the trash, has a part to play. And that's the key takeaway here. This home functions because everyone pitches in. All right, now for Section 4. And this is where we get to the real heart of the painting. This is the good stuff. Bonds, memories, and traditions. We've seen the structure, we've seen the routine, but what's really holding this family together? What gives this portrait its soul? It all starts with this foundational bond. The narrator just comes right out and says it. They have a strong connection with their parents. This isn't just about living together. It's about real emotional intimacy. And that becomes the emotional anchor for the entire story. And the connection extends sideways to the siblings. But notice the specific words here. It's not just, yeah, we get along. It's, we are good friends. That totally elevates the relationship, right? It's not about obligation. It's about chosen affection. They're pals. And there it is. That's the thesis statement for this entire portrait.
When you ask, what's your defining quality? The answer isn't about being funny or smart or successful. It's about mutual support. We always help each other. That is the core value, the glue holding all these pieces together.
So how do you reinforce a bond like that? Well, through shared experiences. This timeline shows it perfectly. These memories, from big traditions like Christmas to simple things like a weekend hike, they're like the highlight reel of the family's story, building a shared history and making them stronger over time. And that brings us to our final section, hopes for the future. Because a family portrait isn't just some static image hanging on a wall, right? It's a living, breathing thing, and it's always looking forward. This is where the story gives us a little hint about the sequel. A huge part of any family's future lies in the individual dreams of its kids. You gotta wonder, where do these characters, who we've just gotten to know, see themselves going from here? And here we get a little peek at their own personal story arcs. The sister wants to be a doctor, the brother an engineer. These ambitions, they show us that these kids are ready to go out into the world and build on the foundation their family gave them. But the story doesn't just split off into individual paths. What about the dreams they still share as a single unit? What do they still want to achieve together? This is awesome. This is the future plot of their shared story. They have goals that require them to work as a team, a big adventure like traveling to Europe, and a practical dream like buying a bigger house. It shows they're still actively writing their story, together. And after all of that, the roles, the routines, the memories, the ambitions, the conversation circles right back to the most essential truth. When all is said and done, the best thing, the absolute defining feature of this entire portrait is simply their love for one another. That's the ultimate summary, isn't it? So as we wrap this up, it kind of leaves us with one last thought. We've just seen how this incredibly detailed, beautiful portrait can be painted with the simplest words. So now, think about your own. If you had to boil it all down, what's the one story, the one simple answer that truly defines your family?